Volunteers at the Rosi Azam Welfare Foundation thoroughly clean every machine before they lend them out again. The charity provides these life-saving oxygen pumps to COVID-19 patients around South Africa at no cost.
When people started sharing their success stories of winning the battle against COVID, that's when our organization really got well known at a national level. And then we started receiving phone calls from Cape Town, started receiving phone calls from Durban.
Through donations, the non-profit organization is able to loan out these oxygen pumps to people with severe breathing problems. Each of these machines costs around $700, much more than most South Africans can afford. Safraz Khan is one of the recipients of the oxygen pumps. Khan recently became a father after trying for 7 years and thought life couldn't get any better. But then he became severely ill with COVID-19 and nearly lost his life. At his lowest, he says it was his wife and newborn baby that gave him strength to hold on.
Certain times where you just sit there and you cry because you can't do it anymore. And without their support, she'll come, she'll show me the child from far. This is what you need to do for. It's really, you have to fight.
As an asthmatic, Khan's doctor thought he was better off receiving treatment at home and was able to connect him to the charity providing free oxygen machines. Even though Khan is one of the 16% of South Africans who have private health insurance, his physician worried that he may not get the treatment he needed, even at private hospitals, facilities which were also being overwhelmed. During the peak of the third wave, patients faced pressures on how long they could be kept on an oxygen machine before the next one had to have it. To alleviate some of the pressures on the healthcare system, a group of doctors has come together to offer a range of medical services to their community. Each day when they finish work, they come here and operate this clinic free of charge, often seeing patients late into the night. Those they are helping are people who are unable to pay for private health care.
So basically, we are doing primary health care, but we see tertiary, we see the medical emergencies, we see COVID patients, we see all sorts of patients.
Knowing the devastation that the pandemic can cause, these doctors and their colleagues providing oxygen machines to communities say they are prepared for a fourth wave and will do all they can to minimize the impact for those in need. Nsepeng Mutema, Africa Matters, Johannesburg.
In Kenya, women under 50 account for half of those diagnosed with breast cancer. 44-year-old Coletta Mwende is one of them. She was supposed to start treatment in India in March, but due to the outbreak of coronavirus, she was forced to seek treatment in Kenya. During her treatment, she realized she was misdiagnosed.
It was painful because the doctor I had was a professor and I never expected to be wrongly diagnosed from such a doctor.
Access to cancer treatment is also a challenge. It's unaffordable for most Kenyans who live on less than $3 a day.
If you have cancer, I mean, when you're not financially stable especially, dying is easy.
Statistics show that cancer cases are rising. Kenya records about 7,000 new cases each year. Dr. Lucy Wanda, an oncologist, attributes the rise to lack of cancer treatment centers.
The facilities are very few. Most of them concentrated within Nairobi for the private facilities. For the government facilities, now is only having others coming up. Previously, it was just Kenyatta.
Coletta Mwende says her life changed after being diagnosed with the disease.
I lost my friends, my family members too. I have family members who haven't called me for 6 good months. It reaches a point where you become depressed.
Cancer is the third leading cause of death in Kenya, and with limited access to treatment, cancer patients like Coletta continue to suffer. It's for that reason that Diana Akech, a beautician, took it upon herself to help put a smile on cancer patients by providing free wigs in her Nairobi salon. For Coletta, chemotherapy treatments might be saving her life, but the loss of her hair has left her feeling exposed. But finally, she has something to smile about.
Wow! Yeah, I'm very happy.
Diana Akech started doing her makeover 7 years ago after her friend got diagnosed with cancer.
She was so happy and she told me, Diana, what you've done to me today, I need you to bless somebody else. Somebody ever comes to you who doesn't have money and they would love you to give them a wig. Please, for my sake, I would love you to bless somebody with a wig.
But for the women who have received them, it's one less thing to worry about as they continue their fight against cancer. And Masharia Africa Matters, Nairobi.
Emile Fortua was just an infant when fighting broke out in Cameroon's English-speaking regions in 2017 between separatist groups wanting independence and government forces. A year later, he watched his father and brother being tortured and killed.
They caught my brother and they buried him. And my father, they shot him in his head. They shot him in his 2 legs and then they cut his ears and they cut his head. And then they buried him. I was feeling so angry that I'll get revenge when I grow up. My mother told me, never forget about revenge and take over my future.
Like Emile, Hans Ajekito has lived through the horror. He was playing with his friends when a stray bullet shattered his right hand. 3 of his friends were killed on the spot.
There was blood coming up on my hand. So they took me to the hospital. I was unconscious. So when I got up, they told me that some of my friends were dead. I was crying the whole day. I told them that they could not die, but that I was supposed to be the one to die. They should live.
Such stories are ordinary everyday events in Cameroon's Anglophone regions where relentless shooting and violence are taking a devastating toll on children. The government says more than 800,000 children are not attending school and 150,000 others are internally displaced. Emile and several other children now find comfort and shelter at the Aya Foundation, run by the son of a former politician.
When the crisis came up, we saw what was happening to our people, our children, our widows, and we decided to create the foundation. There was need to sacrifice, to offer to help people in difficulty. They are all going to school.
The children now live relatively normal lives, but some of them are showing signs of post-traumatic stress disorder. Doctors say children here need psychiatric help, but there are only 4 hospitals in the region that offer such treatment. So, playing is the only way many of the children can try and cope with the scars of the armed conflict. Every day, the children sing praises to God and recite the Bible.
We don't want people to be dying every day and night. We just want peace.
1,000 may fall dead beside you.
They pray for an end to the civil war sometime soon. Aris Ntamfu, TRT World, Buea, Cameroon.
You are my defender and protector.
These days, the Nasto Apedo is always working on his video game designs. The young Ghanaian taught himself programming 10 years ago by watching YouTube videos. Last year, when COVID-19 lockdowns were imposed, he launched his first creation.
It's about giving the 1 billion Africans something to look at when they get onto the Play Store, something that represents them, something that they can look at and they can know that there is something about us that I can see in this piece of software that I can play with and engage with, something I can show people and say that, doesn't this look familiar?
Players race Ghanaian branded taxis on well-known roads and past recognizable landmarks. The first volume of RWC Racing took Apeldo 2 years to build, and he's recently released a second version with advanced features.
Just like how in superhero movies, the costume, colors, and themes are very important. The same for video games.
Make we go. Earlier this year, Apeldo launched his second creation, a first-person shooter game. Both are available on the Apple and Google Play stores, and between them have more than 50,000 downloads. Developers like Dinasto Apeldo are not just creating jobs for young people while growing Africa's lucrative game industry, they are also projecting their vision of Africa to the world. The global video game market is expected to surpass $290 billion by 2027, according to research company Global Industry Analyst. The African market is still growing, but demand for content is huge among young people, and many are already fans of Apeldo's games.
I saw a Ghanaian track in there, and these are things we see in our everyday life. So for the developer to inculcate all of this into the game, it will help Ghanaian kids who are upcoming, who are interested in games, to feel belonged in the game than to play any other foreign game.
Apeldo says he wants to build a successful business that will encourage other young African developers to enter the industry. Isaac Kaleji, Africa Matters, Accra.
What does that mean? Beautiful.
Ifeoma Azogu is teaching her sons Igbo, one of the 3 most spoken languages in Nigeria. She is doing this with the aid of the Mavis Talking Pen and book. Azogu runs a language and culture hub in Abuja, and she insists that the children there be able to speak at least 2 Nigerian languages.
I decided that I think they need to learn our language so that when we're in other public places that are Western and otherwise, we can actually speak to them a bit privately.
Azogu's 15-year-old son is determined to learn his local dialect so he can become more familiar with his own culture and his traditions.
When I go to my village at the end of the year, I normally don't interact with my people well. They normally look at me as the boy who doesn't even know how to speak his language. They just look at that boy, even his parents, what are they doing? They're not teaching him properly. And I didn't feel very nice or communicated with, so I tried to take it upon myself to learn my language.
Language experts say some of the more than 400 languages in Nigeria, including Igbo and Yoruba, could completely disappear within the next 50 years unless something is done to keep them alive. Chizera Muchiaga is an electronics engineer who is actively working to save some of Nigeria's dying languages. His company produces the Mavis Talking Pen and books that children are using to learn a new language.
A lot of kids don't speak the local language, and they travel, they can't communicate with people at home. Even in the family, there are sometimes parents want to speak to them in their local dialect for certain reasons, and the kids are lost. Both kids here and especially kids in the diaspora. So what we decided to do was to use technology to fix that, because you could have a very good language teacher, but that teacher can't go house to house to teach everybody in the country or abroad. So but with technology, you can replicate that. So that's why we made the pen and books.
Uchiaga says his company has produced 6,000 copies of the books and pens, and they've all sold out. It takes about 1 month to digitize a language, and his company is looking for funding to be able to do more of it. Chizera Muchiaga and Mavis Computel's vision is to digitize more and more languages both in Nigeria and across Africa so that children, including Azogu's son Chuma, can be part of keeping their languages, cultures and traditions alive for generations to come. Polum David, TRT World, Abuja.
Caring is sharing. And for Emre Olgai, the saying has a special meaning. Every day, he works closely with some of Uganda's most underprivileged young people in the slums of Kampala. He has become a father figure for many.
TRT takes care of the orphans in Uganda because back home we have a giving culture. That's why they are practicing this culture. They want to share what they have. Even some people, they share small portion of their salary to support the orphans. Okay, why orphans? Because our religion and culture encourage us to help the orphans because they need the most, because they are the less privileged people.
Charity like this is a core principle for TRT, a Turkish non-profit organization that is expanding its work across Africa. In the past 7 years, it has helped about 50,000 needy Ugandans. It is currently providing free education and basic support to 50 vulnerable children in the suburbs of Kampala. Life as an orphan is never easy. They often have no way to meet their basic needs, and most are relegated to living in informal settlements like this. But this 18-year-old has a bright future.
TRT has educated me from nursery up to the end of primary school. And it has given my family money, which has been helping us to buy food, clothes, as well as rent for my house. And this has kept us together as a family. If it weren't for them, our family would have been apart.
Through the Turkish government and other organizations, Turkey has offered more than 14,000 scholarships to African students since 1992. These humanitarian efforts are winning over the hearts of people on the continent.
The acceptance of Turkey in Uganda and in Africa is based on that mutual trust, mutual partnership that it has got with the peoples that it is working with. For it wants to develop with you. You move together shoulder to shoulder. As opposed to some, I do not want to mention countries, but I know you are aware of some countries whose mentality is about exploitation, imperialism, which is not the case with Turkey.
Currently, TRT is building a $500,000 orphanage that from next year will accommodate about 200 children. And by offering quality education, the team hopes to transform the lives of those who need it the most. Darren Alan Cheyune, Africa Matters, Kampala.
25-year-old Byron Katsande works hard to survive. Unfortunately, his work happens to be illegal. He buys worn-out US dollar notes that will be rejected in normal stores at half price. Then he uses a special type of glue to mend the bills and resell them at a profit. He believes he's providing a service to people in need.
I don't see anything illegal in what we are doing because we are encouraging people not to throw away dirty and tattered notes. At the same time, it's helping some of us earn an honest living.
And the capital Harare is now full of other traders like Byron. At nearly every street corner, the business is money. People blame the government for mismanaging the economy and creating cash shortages. But authorities say these currency changes are making it worse by driving down the value of the official Zimbabwean dollar. They announced a crackdown in September and are calling for stiffer penalties.
We arrested a total of 91 forex dealers, not only in Harare, but all over the country. And we are engaging the judiciary to ensure that some of these laws they are tightened.
Economists say police are unlikely to win the fight against illegal dealers since they are heavily used by the informal sector, which makes up 70% of the country's economy.
If I was in a trader situation, I had currency come through my business which was not of a decent standard, I would sell it to my bank. My bank would give me new notes. But in the informal sector, that is not possible.
And it's not necessarily easier to access cash through normal banks. The acute shortage of US dollars has triggered scenes like these. The result is an increase in the number of illegal money changers who conduct their business in spite of the risk of jail time and running battles with the police. The Zimbabwean dollar is currently pegged at 105 against the US dollar. But that rate becomes much steeper on the black market and electronic exchanges, with experts predicting it could fall further soon. And more economic uncertainty means more demand for illegal dealers to keep the money flowing. John Nyashanu, Africa Matters, Harare.
Theo Baloyi sold his first pair of Batu sneakers 5 years ago from the boot of his car. Today, his company, Batu, employs more than 200 people. He's one of the most celebrated entrepreneurs in South Africa, but says the most fulfilling part of his job is giving back to the community.
Ours is to be of service, directly and indirectly to our communities. Our lives should have impact in other people's lives, and those people's lives should also, their lives should also have an impact in other people's lives.
The 32-year-old identified a gap in the sneaker market and launched Batu, which means shoe in township slang. It's now become one of Brand Africa's top 10 most admired brands because of its youthful designs that sell for about $45, making it affordable for many customers who can also order a customized pair for themselves.
I had to take my own, savings and use them as seed capital into the business and build the value chain end to end, with the sole aim to reignite hope and create sustainable jobs.
5 years after its founding, Batu employs 220 people, has a 4,000 square meter warehouse, and has 27 stores across South Africa. But COVID-19 pandemic has thrown a curveball to many businesses. And in the past month, South Africa saw the worst looting and violence since the end of apartheid 27 years ago. So far, Batu has weathered the storm.
We managed to sustain the business because when we started the first 2 years, we didn't have a lot of expenses. We were just an online business. That helped us build the working capital so that when COVID came, we could sustain the business. It was like we always sort of knew that in year 3, year 4, we're going to have something called COVID, and it's going to have great impact in the retail sector and the economy.
Baloyi makes a point of employing people from his home township. 80% of his workforce come from Alexandra, and they love it here.
It's one of those crazy places you'd wish to be each and every day of your life. Waking up in the morning, you'll just say, you know what, I'm going to the office, I want to see the guys, I want to see Queen Lou, I want to see Mr. Baloyi, I want to see Andrew, I want to see who. Because of it is actually a young, vibrant kind of a place.
The metaphor of a journey of 1,000 miles starting with just one step could not describe Theo Baloyi's story better. After years of starting his own company, he's now walking that journey in the shoes made from his own factory. And that factory is a source of hope for 220 young people that he employs. Matuwa Mahlachi, Alexandra Township, South Africa.
Allow me to introduce myself. I am the girls in the pictures you commission of abject poverty. I know it sounds poetic, but I assure you, our lives are not an aesthetic. Perhaps you didn't know that I am the girl staying home from school because I don't have pads. My future, they took that. I am the girl walking to school with a stomach heavier than my book bag. This is my life. I am no different from the girl you heard about being sold off at 12 as a wife. I am not a charity case. But that's the picture you get. I see I am my grandmother's legacy. I come from a long line of matriarchal forces, rainmakers, healers, warriors especially. My mother and grandmother now say they hope I forgive them for bringing me into a world where my very existence is a transgression, where demanding change is mundane and violence against my sisters is just another Monday. This is to you, our world leaders, the ones who have our trust, a less than few. You made all these promises you said you'd pursue, so why does the mortality rate and gender-based violence still have the longest queue? Strange. So this is to let you know that if you want to buy my vote, I don't want notes. I just want change. Love is a verb. So I don't just want you to talk about it, I need you to be about it in every sector: health, economy, climate, community. This is your opportunity in every room to put my sisters first, even the one still in the womb. We've come a long way. So I pray that the strides we made before the pandemic are not receding, we are pleading. Do not leave us behind. We have options but no choices, opinions but no voices. It's time, it's been time to rise, refocus, recover.